We have always believed that Monty was the one who ended Bonnie and that all the blame was put on him. But what if I told you that it was not Monty and that I may have discovered the possible identity of Bonnie's killer? Without further ado, let's get into it. So in order for us to grasp an understanding of who Bonnie's killer is, we need to look back into the past, starting off with the Monty cardboard backstory. Within the Rune DLC, there's a segment within the game where you take a ride in one of the Monty rides, and from there it displays a story of how Monty first started off. We see how Monty was a one-man band and that he was not that popular. One day he sees how the Glamrock animatronics are performing for their fans as well as a display of popularity. We see that not only Monty is impressed by the Glamrocks, but that he idolized Bonnie and was inspired by him. Not to mention there is a star that Monty is looking at which matches with the one we see on Bonnie. Wanted to prove to himself his idol and gain popularity, he was given a chance and was given the bass guitar by Bonnie. From that, he was given a new haircut by Roxy. Afterwards, he started to perform with the bass guitar and quickly gains fans and an increase in popularity. Now, this story has a detail that is crucial in understanding the mind of Monty, his motives, and his display of anger. If we look at the Glamrock cutouts, we can see that all the other characters are lit up except for Freddy. This insinuates a few things. The first being that Monty was jealous of the friendship that both Freddy and his idol shared, second being that Monty wanted the spotlight, and that third being that Monty held a hatred towards Freddy. This can all be proved within the Monty golf minigame. On the final hole, we can see that Freddy is in the trash can while the other animatronics along with Monty are performing. With this, we can clearly see that Monty held a full admiration for Bonnie and that he held a hatred and jealousy towards Freddy. What's also interesting is that the cutout of Monty that we see during the ride has no claws to begin with. For Bonnie to play the bass guitar, the claw upgrade is necessary. Let me explain why the claws are another key detail in moving forward with all of this. To help bring fruition to all this, we need to look back at the messages. Within Security Breach, you can find many messages within duffel bags and that there are a couple specific messages we need to look at to connect the dots. The first message being labeled missing. It says security report 12:24 a.m. Bonnie is seen leaving his green room in Rockstar Row heading east towards the atrium. 2:40 a.m. Bonnie enters the East Arcade. 4:12 a.m. Bonnie enters Monty Golf. So from reading from this message, a lot of people would insinuate that Monty was one to end Bonnie due to Bonnie being last seen with Monty Gator Golf, right? Well, I believe that is not the case. Let's move on to the next message being labeled understudy. It says management report. With Bonnie out of commission, we are making Monty the new bass player. Parts and service have already done the proper adjustments. This could be a good thing. Monty could be even more popular than Bonnie. This message is really important because this is telling us that Monty did not receive the call upgrades till after Bonnie went missing and is perceived to be decommissioned. And yes, within the Rune DLC during the Monty boss fight, we see the Bonnie neon light turn on as Monty's being electrocuted and that Monty does have anger issues and possesses a jealousy for the friendship that Freddy and Bonnie shared, and not to mention the spotlight that Freddy held. But besides that though, Monty never really had a real motive towards Bonnie, or not to mention had the necessary weapons or means of taking out Bonnie. So if Monty didn't kill Bonnie, who did? Well, let's look at the crime scene where Bonnie lies and gather details, and afterwards use those details to compare our suspect who was responsible for killing Bonnie. When looking at Bonnie, the first thing we see is that there are bowling ball pieces near his head. So this was insinuating that someone put a lot of force to the bowling ball and hit Bonnie in the head, which disoriented him. We can also see there's a dent in the wall as well. So after getting hit in the head by the bowling ball, Bonnie will run into the wall and fall. The next detail that I want to point out is the huge hole we see on Bonnie's chest. Now, this is the part where a lot of people believe that Bonnie's chest was clawed out, and not to mention there's green rusted paint accompanying it. But perhaps his chest injury wasn't caused by claws, but rather something else. In fact, the chest injury that we see along with the rest of Bonnie's parts being torn out looks like a situation we've seen before. And the familiarity comes from the time when Freddy was disassembled by Statbots, and that his chest was torn along with the rest of his body. Another thing to note is that Monty Golf is located on the first floor while Bonnie Bowl is located on the third floor, and yet we find Bonnie hidden in Bonnie Bowl. So with the two locations being in two complete different areas within the Peachplex, along with the chest injury similarity, and not to mention Bonnie hidden in a different area entirely, we have to ask ourselves this: who utilizes Statbots and afterwards disposes of them? Well, the one person who does this along with being the possible killer would be Vanny. Let me explain. We know that when Vanny goes to her Vanessa persona, she's a security guard, and that as security guard, she has access to a lot of technological equipment and a bunch of information within the Peachplex, such as the camera systems, the maintenance logs, the information on animatronics, and much more. And that she's affected by the Glitchtrap virus and is following the Glitchtrap virus's order and trying to fulfill its plans. What's even more interesting is that there is a vent within Bonnie's room that connects to Phaser Blast, which leads you to Vanny's hideout, not to mention that there are Statbots in Bonnie's room as well. So with this in mind, let's present a scenario as to what could have happened to Bonnie. We can say that whatever Bonnie's seen or witnessed in Monty Gator Golf cannot get out to the public, so with that, Vanny used the Statbots in Monty Golf to attack Bonnie. Receiving a slight injury, he flees from Monty Golf. Using the camera systems and the Statbots to her advantage, she would force Bonnie to head in the direction of his back room in Bonnie Bowl in order to set him up. She could either make her way to her hideout or already within her hideout, and seeing all this and seeing that there is a vent that connects from Phaser Blast to Bonnie's back room, she would use the shortcut and prepare to strike when the opportunity presented itself. And due to Vanny's mere presence of being invisible to the main animatronic's eyes, Bonnie won't literally know what even hit him. Vanny uses the bowling ball and hits hits Bonnie in the head, which causes him to hit the wall and fall to the ground. From the impact of both the bowling ball and the wall, Bonnie would begin to malfunction. And dealing the final blow, Vanny would order the staff boss to disassemble Bonnie. However, Vanny was not done yet. In order to not risk leaving any tracks of evidence as well as Glitchshot's plans not being foiled, a cover-up was needed. Vanny, fully knowing that Monty held an admiration for Bonnie as well as having anger and jealousy issues, she would make the crime display in front of her look like it was committed by Monty. This would explain the Monty-themed carpet below Bonnie. Not to mention that Vanny's name is spelled out with a spray paint on the wall in her hideout. She would then spray paint the chest with a green color, and within time it would fade, and thus if the body was ever discovered by Fazbear Entertainment, the blame would be put onto Monty and that her trail would disappear without a trace. Not to mention that Vanny could erase any camera footage related to the crime, message logs, and any other information that would be vital in exposing the truth. From looking at the crime scene here, we can see that there are wet floor signbots surrounding Bonnie. What if in a last-ditch effort Bonnie uses what little power he has left along with the aid of the wet floor signbots to send out a signal to his friends to warn him about what's coming, but the signal is too weak and thus no one answers. And so Bonnie is left to rot and is hidden away, never to be seen. That is until we enter into the Rune DLC and Cassie finds Bonnie. Now, I have seen a few theories on how the Mimic could have been one to take up Bonnie due to its knowledge of using hiding spots, its ability to mimic voices, wear different costumes, and not to mention does possess lethal claws. But here's the problem. The Mimic is sealed away underground behind a concrete wall as well as a bunch of security doors. And that in the Rune DLC, Gregory states that the Mimic was sealed away for a very long time and that the Mimic is freed after the events of the main game.
I really don't know what it is, but it's been trapped down here a really long time.
So with that said, Vanny would be the only person capable of pulling off all of this. And you guys are probably thinking, wouldn't somebody seen that happen in Monty Gator Golf, where Bonnie flees from Monty Gator Golf, makes his way to Bonnie Bowl, and afterwards gets taken out by Vanny? Well, we have to think about this. The first being is that this is all taking place after hours, not to mention the rest of the main animatronics will be either in their green room or down in parts of servers, due to when we start off with Security Breach, we see that all the animatronics after every concert are in their green rooms. And perhaps the moment where he leaves his green room from Rockstar Row and makes his way to the atrium and afterwards East Arcade and afterwards hanging out in Monty Golf could be his normal routine he takes, until eventually just one night where something different happens and he sees something he's supposed to see. That's when things go downhill for Bonnie. With Bonnie being decommissioned and gone missing, this could explain why Monty becomes even more aggressive in Security Breach, due to the loss of Bonnie, given a spot within the Glamrock band that didn't win, and that his grief would only continue to grow due to Freddy acting as a constant reminder of the friendship that both he and his idol shared. So Fazbear Entertainment, not fully knowing exactly what happened to Bonnie and dealing with the constant questions of his disappearance, they would then present the Monty backstory cutout to the public and present a supposed truth. And that the cover-up presents us with the hidden truth, lies, and that the Glitchshot virus will soon take over the Mega Pizzaplex, and the course of events that we know take place would play out in accordance. And with that, this concludes that Monty was not the one to end Bonnie, but rather it was Vanny. If you guys agree with this theory, or you have any other theories or speculation of your own, make sure you guys leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and as always, stay safe, stay positive, be for another. Remember, the grind never stops, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, y'all.